get more analysis now with Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, Political Analyst with UKZN. Doc, good afternoon to you. I think first and foremost, I want to go back to a quote from the now Secretary General of the party, Fikile Mbalula, who in November this year, just last month, said some very poignant words, saying going into the selective conference, for him, it is renewal of the ANC or death of the ANC. Is this the top 7 of renewal?
Good afternoon, Naledi, and to viewers at home. You see a different type of a top 7 here, comparatively what we saw from 2017, where there were clear slates, who were cutting. What you are seeing here is very interesting, people from what we thought were different slates coming together, and that is actually signaling the spiraling that we saw happening from yesterday, where certain provinces started to shift positions to support certain candidates who are not necessarily that candidates were in their faction. So it could be, but not also, because what you're also seeing is that when you bring people in that fashion, they're likely ideologically to still continue to differ. They're likely also in terms of implementation continue to differ. They're likely also continue to differ around strategy. So I do not think necessarily that this one particular NEC is going to take us to the direction of unity for those reasons.
Well, speaking of the NEC, what happens now? Because we did before the announcement of the top 7 see the NEC dissolve. A very powerful moment as they got off the stage and we said goodbye to the previous NEC of the party. What happens now in terms of really setting up that very important decision-making body of the party?
Well, where the conference is at now, Natasha, the conference has just elected the top 7, right? The results have been announced. So now process is at the point where they need to bring in the other 80, which is a very significant component of what then constitutes the National Executive Committee of the ANC. These are members who are supporting the work of the top 7. They are very, very instrumental in terms of strategy, in terms of ideas, but also in terms of just shaping the direction in between conference. South Africans would remember, in a lady, that the NEC is the highest decision-making body of the African National Congress in between conference, right? So it becomes very key in terms of who then becomes part of that conference, because it is the body that's going to make sure that resolutions that come out of here and policies that are adopted at this conference get to be implemented in the next 5 years. So you can't just have a body, but you need someone that will do the job, someone that will really steer the organization into the right direction. Is this the top 7 to strengthen the party for 2024? Very, very interesting question. I do not know. There are challenges here. This is the ANC. After all, right? We're talking President Cyril Ramaphosa, there's Phala Phala. You're talking about Mbalula, you're talking about Nomvula Mokonyane, then you're talking Pusasa, right? So there are those questions that are hanging, things that are lingering, South Africans are asking. There's trust deficit in communities as we speak, as conference is about to wrap itself up. Will this NEC reduce that trust deficit? And I think no, unless they deal with those hanging questions and lingering questions that are emerging from the Zondo Commission report. Perhaps the communities can begin to think about possibilities of saying maybe we can trust this NEC or not. But the levels of trust in society right now, Naledi, to answer your question, is very, very low. I want to get into this and squeeze this one in because I feel it's important, particularly as a woman in South Africa watching this. 3 women as part of that top 7. The DSG, the second DSG, as well as the Treasurer General. There's been a concern that once you bring women into the top 7, you want them to be women that are trusted to represent women and not there simply for the sake of representation, and that it's real, and it's not just a facade. Are you seeing that in those women? I'm troubled a little bit, because we know that the nomination of Nomvula Mokonyane is not the nomination of the Women's League, right? And then there's politics there, and I think it's going to be interesting whether she is going to then be able to represent sentiments of the Women's League inside the African National Congress. But perhaps because she was brought in by branches and not the Women's League, because it could be that the branches are signaling lack of confidence into the Women's League because of the kinds of positionalities that the Women's League has been taking over time. Maybe they're saying to Nomvula Mkonyane, please can you represent issues that the league is failing to represent? You know, it could be that. We're seeing Ramaphosa coming into the position of treasury. It's never happened in the ANC before, right? It's a very, very key position because it talks to the financial stability of the organization. However, Naledi, my challenge is that Gwen is going to inherit a financial situation that is in tatters, right? And I think that when South Africans judge her performance as a woman, it should not be judged on her body as a woman, on her gender. But I think there needs to be context put into place to say, remember, you are inheriting an organization here that has not been able to pay salaries of staff in the last couple of days, in the last couple of months. You're inheriting an organization that did not know at some point where it is going to get money from, because of the bill of the act of parliament that was just passed around finances of political parties. So there are those things that are going to challenge her office that you would need to then be able to speak to.
Yeah, I mean it really is, and you've got the celebrations taking place here at Nasrec, but as Dr. Fikile Vilakazi really reminding us, there a lot of work that these leaders now have taken on as the top 7 of the African National Congress. Thank you so much to political analyst there, Dr. Fikile Vilakazi. She's still with us though as we continue bringing you all that is taking place here at Nasrec. Let's head back to studio though. Nompumelele Siziba, over to you.
Thanks very much, Naledi.